Hello, welcome to my channel. I'm Anthony Oliver Coggy, the proprietor of this channel. Um, so this is chapter one. I'm going to call it a time paradox, or basically how creation was birthed through a time paradox. I haven't figured out the title yet. Um, these videos, I have a lot of paperwork to go through. I probably got about 100 chapters to get caught up on. So, I'm not a professional YouTuber. I don't have professional equipment. All I got is my cell phone, my laptop, and my drawings. So, if you're expecting, really fancy videos with edited and cutouts and music playing in the background, you're not going to get that here. But what you are going to get is the greatest story ever told. So typically, because my camera or my phone, I can't switch back and forth between, you know, how to put it, well, the only way you can see me is if I go like that. So this will be like the only time you're going to see me, unless you look at my other video that says, someday this year is going to get me to Hollywood. Um, so typically, because I can't do both. Like I don't have two cameras. I can't talk to you here and show my face on the screen, and I can't, you know, I'm like I said, I'm not professional, but the information you're going to learn here, it's going to be civilization changing. So without further ado, with my short intro, let's get into chapter one here. So I'm going to teach you about creation. Now, you guys all been taught, this, and that, and you all have beliefs in this, and that. Well, the Native Americans, they have their belief in this, and that, right? And I'm going to teach you about creation from a Native American standpoint, and I'm going to prove through science that Native Americans are the creators, and that the mother and father of all creation were let's just put it, how do I put it delicately? I gotta go watch my words, my choice of words, where I can get edited. Um, let's just say in a past life, somebody, decided to take creation over, which ultimately ended up in your mother and father being reincarnated here. So that person that, was responsible for, the rise of evil, uh, actually created Earth as a staging ground to try to take over creation, and is responsible for basically everything here. Your society and your belief systems and everything. Even hiding the truth from the fact that you're not alone in the universe. There's I wouldn't harbor to say billions of civilizations. There might be millions of civilizations out there, um, but you're not alone. And as you watch more and more of my videos, you're going to begin to understand a little bit more about the technology behind UFOs, because we all see them in videos, right? Even the United States Army published videos about them. They really can't explain what they are, but I can explain them, how they work and everything. So basically, the story tells a different story in regards to the story of creation and what went wrong, the rise of evil, um, where we're going, and how we're going to get there, etc. Like how we're going to overcome evil, and it's a very complex story. Basically, you have Native Americans are now going to have their time on the theological stage, and we've never been able to express ourselves in terms of what spirituality is to us. All we know is that all life has spirit, right? Like the paper has spirit because it's made out of atoms, and the blanket has spirit. My shoes over there, all this stuff has spirit. We can't explain that on the world stage. How do you explain what a spirit is? Well, I'm going to tell you what it is. It all deals with quantum subatomic particle physics, which I'll get into after. And now we can explain that on the world stage. And the difference is nobody on the world stage can tie those two together, like theology and science, because they're always bumping heads, right? Like science says this and theology says that. Well, guess what? Native American spirituality is science and and spirituality at the same time. So um, I realize, I've probably wasted my, what is it, my 17 seconds of, you're supposed to grab somebody's attention within the first 17 seconds of your YouTube videos. Well, that doesn't concern me because I know this story is going to go viral. It's just a matter of time. I'm actually working on a book with all these drawings I'm going to show you. Uh, I've been working busy hard on my social media campaign, which is basically TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram, telling my story on there in 220 or 2,200 characters or less, which I'm basically going to cut and paste and create a book and upload it to Google Books for free and tell the world my story that way. There's a lot of information I have to tell. So, um, again, as I'm going to reiterate, so I'm going to tie science and theology together from a Native American perspective, and I'm going to prove without a shadow of doubt that we're the creators. So let's get this show on the road here, chapter one. Um, so this here is called the uh, I call it the time paradox. Everyone wants to know how creation came into existence. Like, well, science has the Big Bang theory, right? Like they theorize everything came from the size of an atom and exploded. Theology has, people talking about words, talking words, and bringing into existence through words, right? That's the supernatural. Well, Native Americans can now say, well, it takes life to create life. So how it came about is through a time paradox. It's a very interesting concept, and I'm pretty sure science will get a kick out of it. So this here is, let's just call this here the mother of all creation. So when the mother of all creation got pregnant, there's actually eight of them. When eight mother of all creations got pregnant here, it was the life force here of the souls of these sets of fraternal twins. So there's two of them in there. So when their souls form on the 6th week of uh, pregnancy, when the soul forms in the spinal cord, that life force of creating the life of a soul is what birthed creation at the beginning of time. So this is the physical creators here, but their pregnancy, like this took place like a billion years after the birth of the universe. So their pregnancy is what birthed the universe at the beginning of time. So over here, the universe came into existence. It went around, went around, went around. Next thing you know, there's physical creators, and then they got pregnant, and their pregnancy is what birthed the universe into existence. It's the ultimate chicken and egg question of which came first. Obviously, the universe came first, and then the physical creators to birth it into existence. So I've got this labeled here as number one. So number one is a set of fraternal twins. So there's a boy and a girl inside this female mother creator. Okay, so the life force here of these fraternal twins, and I'm going to say there's eight of them because there's eight sets of, I call them primordial gods and goddesses. So think of them as eight sets of mom and dads because there's eight parallel universes. So these eight sets of creators, they got pregnant, and the eight sets of them created eight sets of fraternal twins, and it's these fraternal twins here that birthed creation into existence here. So that's what they represent. Now, the universe needed a place to exist, and that place that we put it in was inside a fungi spore. So this is a fungi spore. So this fungi spore here, it allowed the universe to come into existence because you need a place to put the universe. Like, well, science will tell you the universe is all there is, like it goes on forever and ever and ever, but that's impossible because it goes against what they said at the beginning of their Big Bang. They say that creation started out smaller than an atom and then it exploded, and then in an instant it went from the size of an atom to going on forever. But you can't you can't have forever, and you should know that science. You know that when you're what do you call them guys, when your fellow scientists begin to calculate calculations that come near infinity, that you guys say you can't do that. It's impossible to achieve calculations with infinity. So therefore, from your own perspective, how can you go from the size of an atom to ultimately going inside to the size of infinity? Well, simple, mankind. It's because they don't really have the answer, so they just kind of, they make stuff up, and because they're scientists and they got a big college degree, we have to buy that information. So that's it's just their way of covering up a hole in their theory. So this here we solved it by putting the universe inside a fungi spore. But not only that, there's these here. So these are the six quantum subatomic particles of all creation. So everything is made up of atoms, and atoms are made up of quarks. And inside of a quark is the soul, but not all quarks, because you would think that this batch of stuff here is made up of quarks, and you would think that there's a bunch of souls in it. No, that's not what it is. I'll get to that in a minute. And then there's the element space. So that here, that's an atom. That's what a quark looks like. So there's an atom. This is the electron, and inside that electron is a quark. It looks like that. And inside that quark's electron there is our souls. And they have they're made up of these elements here. So this is the element love. This is the element fire. This is the element water. This is the element earth. This is the element air. This is the element life, and this is the element health, and this is spirituality. And this is our universe. So that's the element space. That's an actual element. And then you have time here. So this is time. And this is Gaia. So Gaia is the plants, animal, insects, and fungi souls. Time, time is the sun. So these here are black holes. Okay, so even inside the space, there's black holes. That the supermassive black holes at the center of the galaxy, that's the element space. What science doesn't know is that time here is a black hole under every star in the universe, because that's how stars were formed. And then planets are formed by black holes as well. And I'll teach you that after. But so these are the six quantum subatomic particles of all creation: atoms, quarks, soul, space, time, and Gaia. And they all exist inside of one single atom. So these 8 atoms here, they were placed inside that fungi spore at the beginning of time here. So right here, when the creators got pregnant, that life force on the 6th week of the pregnancy, what birthed the universe into existence, birthed this fungi spore into existence, birthed these 8 atoms into existence, and birthed these quarks, the soul, even these universes here. So 8 parallel universes. And there was a bunch of these black holes, and a bunch of, only one of these forms. I'll show you that after. So that's now you know where the universe came into existence, and because the universe needs a place to exist, and the place to exist was in the fungi spore, but that fungi spore needed a place to exist. So they both had to come into existence at the same time. Science will tell you that the universe is all there is and all there ever was, but they can't tell you where it is. They just say it takes up the space forever and ever and ever. Ask a scientist where it's located, and they don't know where it's located. I'm telling you, it's located inside a atom, a quark, a soul, space, time, Gaia, inside of one single atom. So these are I call them the 48 quantum subatomic particles of all creation, because there's 6 times 8 is 48. So there's 48 quantum subatomic particles of all creation that house all creation. And then you got, everything's made up of atoms and quarks. So when these came into existence, the universe had a place to exist, and the fungi spore had a place to exist. So see that universe there, the top one? That's our universe here. This here is it's a carbon copy universe of this one here. This here is elemental universe. This is where ice, comets, asteroids, and fungi spores, they all reside in this one. And when a solar system is made, there's a duplicate solar system that's made. So this one here could be thought of as the female universe, and this is the male universe. Two twins create two solar systems. One in that one in this one. And the materials flow from that universe into the both universes. So at the beginning of time, now that there was a universe here inside this single atom, inside the fungi spore, the creators created these black holes. So these are different sized black holes, right? So this is a supermassive black hole. These were galaxies, and these are let's just call them large black holes for stars, and these are medium black holes for planets, and these are small black holes for moons. This here is electromagnetic radiation. So these black holes can be thought of as spirits, and they can be thought of as electricity and magnetism, because they are. So science is aware that there's supermassive black holes at the center of the galaxy. They don't know how they formed there. They don't know who put them there. Well, the creators put them there. The creators are electricity and magnetism. A black hole is like a form of electromagnetism. So they placed I think it was 1 billion of these supermassive black holes in the universe. So there's actually 1 billion galaxies in our universe. No more, no less. It's not random luck, there being 100 billion galaxies. No, it's just 1 billion. So after they placed 1 billion, the grandfather placed, or this space one here, this is the grandfather spirit. He placed 1 billion of these supermassive black holes in the universe to create 1 billion galaxies. The grandmother spirit, which is grandmother time here, she placed 1 billion large black holes around each of those supermassive black holes to create 1 billion stars in each galaxy. No more, no less. So there are a quintillion stars in the universe. No more, no less. So after the grandfather spirit put these there, the grandmother put those there. Okay, and hydrogen was sucked into these quintillion black holes throughout the universe. So over millions of years, maybe even hundreds of millions of years, that hydrogen it gets sucked into the bottom, and it can't go anywhere. So it gets compressed at the bottom of the black hole, and eventually, let's just say maybe 100 million years, it ignites into a ball of plasma or a sun. So thermonuclear fusion takes place, and it gets crushed at the bottom, crushes all that hydrogen in, and then all of a sudden, a star is birthed. So these little arrows here, you see them there, science? So you see how it goes that way? So that's electromagnetism. The spirits are controlling the force of electromagnetism. They're pulling it this way. And when they pull that electromagnetism this way, it pulls the black hole. It pulls the hydrogen in. Now, when they want to birth that star, the spirits, they reverse that electricity. So think of, how you have direct current and alternating current? Well, the spirits are alternating current. So they can pull that current this way, science, so that's alternating current one way, or they can force it to go the other way. That's alternating current the other way. So when they want to birth that star out of there, all they did is they reversed the flow of electricity from the black holes, and that star was birthed out of there. That's what those arrows mean. So hydrogen in, star out. That arrow down, hydrogen in, that arrow up, star out. This arrow this way, that's electromagnetism being pulled this way to suck the hydrogen in. But once the star is birthed, you need some way to kick that star out of the bottom of the black hole. And it's as easy as reversing the flow of electricity with alternating current, and pow, that star was birthed out of those quintillion large black holes. And all of a sudden, that famous saying that you guys all know about, let there be light, there was light. I don't know exactly when. Like it could have been, I have estimates of it being 250 million years it takes for those stars to birth, but it could be as little as 100 million years. So, anyways, so now you have all the stars in the universe were birthed. So there's 8 universes right here. There's so in that single atom, there's these 8 universes. So within these 8 universes, 8 quintillion stars all popped out of the black holes at the beginning of time. And 8 quintillion stars shone light in 8 parallel universes. Let there be light, and there was light. So over here, you'll look at that there, science. So the creators needed a planet. So one single planet in all creation was created. So they started with the moon first. So alternating the electricity by making it flow this way, it brought material in from this elemental universe here. So over here, the material flowed into that universe and into that universe by riding a wave of electromagnetism. They call that dark energy. So this here, this invisible electromagnetic radiation, that's dark energy science. And these black holes that you don't know that are out there, that's dark matter. So the dark matter, you don't know that underneath every star. So there's a quintillion black holes under every star. That's dark matter. You're aware of these black holes at the center of each galaxy. That's dark matter. You're not aware of these planets, and I don't know how many planets there could be. There could be 1 billion planets out there. So that's dark matter. And then every moon has a black hole. That's dark matter. So what happens here, science, is the spirits, they reverse the flow of electricity. So by flowing the electricity this way, that materials can flow from here. So there'd be a black hole that forms here in this universe, and it flows into our universe here. And material rides that wave of invisible electromagnetic radiation until it pops out of this black hole here. Think of our moon as having a black hole at the center, because it does. And the material flows out for that moon. And over time, I don't know exactly how long, I'm estimating a year. The material to create that moon solidifies, I think, within a year. Don't quote me on it, science, but that's what I estimate. So anyhow, the first thing to form is like a giant magnet. So I want you to picture like a magnetic material floating out first, for maybe 4 months of the year, and then maybe the other 8 months it's like rocky material. So when that black hole comes back around again, and they reverse the direction, which is here. So now they reverse the direction of electricity, and that moon material gets sucked into that black hole. So now where the moon is, the material is getting sucked in there, but it's getting sucked in to create a giant magnet at the core. So that magnetic material, it begins to form in the moon's core. So that's what this part is here. It's a giant magnet at the moon's core, and then that begins to pull in the rocky material to form the moon. And that rocky material, like, it would have a certain electromagnetic property, because the atoms that make up the rock material, there's electromagnetism in there. So that electromagnetism at the quantum subatomic level of every atom having a little bit of electromagnetism is attracted to that magnetic core of the moon, the magnet. So the material comes out. They reverse the flow of material, I'm assuming after a year. And then, like I said, within a few months, that magnetic core forms. And then within probably 8 months, a big ball the size of the moon forms. All that material comes together. I could be wrong. It could take millions of years, but I'm just estimating. In my mind, I can't really picture it, because in theory, you'd have to pump out all that material like here at once. Like the material to create the magnetic core and all the material to create the moon before it comes around. And then they reverse the flow of electricity to suck that material in. You only have 1 year. So a lot of material must get ejected out. And then it must all just, it must flow like ejected out. And it's just like tossed out, and a big, you see that line there? So you would think if that's the moon, there's only a certain amount of material. But if the black hole is ejecting out a bunch of material, well, then that line, there could be material like that, right? And not just the one line. There could be like layers of material like that. And then it just all comes together over time like that. So that's the moon. So after how many years the moon is formed there? Now they work on the Earth. So the medium black hole, so after the material creates the moon, they reverse the flow of electricity to create the Earth. So now the material here, like the asteroids, the ice comets, the fungi spores, and the magnetic metal, it flows into this universe and that universe. So now you got magnets flowing in here, and then it pops out of that hole. Then what they do is they reverse the flow of electricity again. So when they reverse the flow of electricity, that white hole here, so this was a white hole spitting out material, and when you reverse it, it becomes a black hole to suck the material in. Same here. So this is the large, does that say large? The medium black hole to create the Earth. So the material is spit out, so it's a white hole. After a certain amount of time, it turns into a black hole, which is here. So they reverse the magnetic flow of the invisible electromagnetic radiation, and it sucks the material in. It creates a magnetic core, and then it pulls all the material in to create a planet. So I have that here. So you have this is these waves here. It helps you see a little bit better. So you got a magnetic wave, and you've got an electric wave. You've got alternating current, which means those waves can go this way to create a black hole, or this way to create a white hole. And you got the magnetic waves, which can move the material. I'm assuming this material here, they would ride this magnetic wave, because it at the quantum subatomic level, if you're trying to move like an asteroid, all those atoms that make up the asteroid, technically there's electromagnetism there, which makes that asteroid, although it doesn't have any metal in it, per se. There's enough electromagnetism there in the quantum subatomic field to allow that thing to ride this electromagnetic wave, even though it's a rock. So that's how the material to create our solar system came from somewhere far away in a totally different universe. I mean, haven't you ever wondered that? Like, where did the material come to create our solar system, right? Like, because once you leave the heliosphere, there's no material in interstellar space. So where did all this material come from to create our solar system? So, if you've ever wondered that, science, you now know. It came from a different universe, elemental universe. So now with the Creator's planet formed using invisible electromagnetic radiations and black holes, the Creators had a place to evolve on. So here's the universe. So now we have 1 billion galaxies, and each galaxy has 1 billion stars. So we have 1 billion galaxies and 1 quintillion stars in each of these parallel universes. So now we have to create these beings here. And for that, evolution takes place. So over time, once the planet forms and everything like that, the fungi spores, they land on the planet. So when that planet was done, the fungi spores landed on there, and then the typical thing that science shows you that took place. So like they know that fungi, they eat the rock, and when they eat the rock turns into soil, and it allows trees to grow on land. But it's the fungi spore that grows those trees, and at the same time, the fungi spore is what seeds life into the oceans. So they're correct when life started in the oceans. They're correct when they tell you that fungi is what allowed life to take hold on the planet. But what they don't know is that those fungi, the fungi spores, they come from that universe here, the elemental universe, and they come into our universe by riding that visible wave of electromagnetic radiation. So, where were we here? So once I think they call it the Cambrian explosion. That's when all the life happens in the sea. You get a bunch of life in the sea, and then life starts to leave the sea. But the fungi have prepared the rock by eating it over millions of years, maybe possibly billions of years. Now, I don't say billions, but I'm going to say hundreds of millions of years. They eat that rock. Life crawls out of the oceans, and then slowly begins to take hold on land. And then eventually, you have the dinosaurs, and then the dinosaurs eventually evolve into primates. So the thing here with the dinosaurs that got destroyed by an asteroid, that doesn't happen naturally in creation. We wouldn't allow that to happen. It's a long, complex story. But let's just say the bad guys they used the tractor beam to get rid of the dinosaurs to create an economy here based on oil, money. That's why they got rid of the dinosaurs. That's the only reason why they used the asteroid to get rid of them. So once we evolved, which is over here. Now you're gonna find this one interesting, science. So after dinosaurs, primates evolved. So when primates evolved, that's when let's say somebody like Cro-Magnon man or Neanderthal. Picture something like that. That Cro-Magnon man or that Neanderthal, they don't have a human soul. See, this is a human soul, and this planet here, that's the animal soul. So that black hole there, that is the animal soul, or it would be Neanderthal soul, or it would be Cro-Magnon man soul, right? So in order to create humans, the spirits or grandmother time, who is the sun, because right here, that black hole is grandmother time. Think of it as being that one there. That's grandmother time. That black hole is space. And that black hole there is Gaia. So that black hole under our star, or under the creator star in this time, she produced a gamma ray. Okay, so that gamma ray, it left the star, and when it hit the planet, the creator's planet here, it altered the hominoid's DNA. So here's evolution taking place after the dinosaurs. So there was primates over here on that creator planet, the only planet in creation. Right, this is the first one in creation. So the grandmother time created a gamma ray burst in the black hole under the star, and when it hit the hominoid species here, or not here, but on the creator's planet, it altered their DNA. And when it altered their DNA, when they began getting pregnant and having children, they were having human children. So this primate here does not have a human soul. This is the human soul. It does not have that. That creature there, its soul is the Gaia particle, or this black hole. So this black hole here, that is at the center of the planet, that's that animal's soul. So the plants, the animals, the insects, and the fungi, they all have souls. They all have intelligence. And that's what Native Americans believe, that all life has spirit, but they can't explain it. Well, they can now, because the black hole that created our planet, that is those animals' souls. So, when you look at your dog, it has a soul. You look at a spider, they have a soul. You look at a tree, they have a soul. You look at a mushroom, that has a soul. So that soul is the black hole. And that's what Native Americans couldn't explain on the theological stage until now. So this primate here, or hominoid, when it alters the DNA, the creators, and when they started producing children, right here, they started producing them in the spinal cord. So they basically quantum teleported these 8 atoms of all creation into the spinal cord of the babies here. So when that spinal cord formed in the primate here, these 8 atoms of all creation were moved into the spinal cord of the first humans in all creation. So those first humans in all creation, they were blessed souls. The creators give them souls. So, and these 8 atoms, they're located in the ones in the brain, ones in the lungs, ones in the hearts, one in the stomach, one in the liver, one in the intestines, one in the bladder, and one in the sex organs. So this atom here, it forms part of your ventral root nerve, right? And that's in your spinal cord. It's connected to those major organs I just mentioned. So those major organs, when it when this atom moved over, this atom forms part of that ventral root nerve. One atom, but that one atom, it has all creation inside of it. So it has this quark, the soul, the universe, all those suns, the quintillion suns, and the one planet. So that one atom forms up part of the ventral root nerve. So the humans the humans now had a soul. So all the creators, they had a soul, and now these 8 atoms had a location to exist inside the first humans ever. So again, the fungi spore here, these atoms, they were moved over into the spinal cords of the first humans when on the 6th week of pregnancy, when these first human spinal cords formed. And our parents, they didn't have human souls. We outlived our parents because once all the primates began producing children, they can no longer produce primates. Like they can no longer produce Cro-Magnon man. They can no longer produce Neanderthal man. So if you can no longer produce Neanderthals, guess what happens? That race goes extinct, because if you cannot, every time you get pregnant, you're producing a human. It's like that baby, it looks different. Why does it have a look different? It doesn't look like our usual highbrow. Why do they look different? Why can't we get pregnant with Neanderthal anymore? But that they're not thinking that, because they know, like I said, like that the Neanderthal has intelligence, because that's its soul. It has intelligence, so it knows that it has a duty to do. So it knows that when it goes extinct, that's the end of its life cycle. But because it's an animal, it's not worried, I guess, about its life cycle. Because you would think that an animal was below us, but it's not, because it's part of creation. So these particles here, like space, time, and Gaia, they're at the top of the food chain. This is grandmother time, this is grandfather space, and these are the plants, animals, insects, and fungi. These guys are at the top of the food chain. They're not at the bottom, man. So that primate knows it has a duty to help creation. So it's a long story. They even help create the planet. So when it goes extinct, one of two things happen. It stays alive forever, either in a perpetual dream, which is the spirit world, or it gets recycled back as a like reincarnation, because that's what happens to the plants, animals, insects, and fungi. They get reincarnated back. So when a lion eats a gazelle on the savannah, that gazelle has its soul recycled back. So that's reincarnation for the animals. So more than likely, this Neanderthal man would get reincarnated on a different planet at a different time, and have his soul, his soul here being the planet, would basically remember, being this or that. So once the humans formed, as babies, I'm going to continue using Neanderthal man. So the Neanderthal would raise us as our own children. Like, they're not just going to toss us away. Like I said, they're smart. They know that they have to raise us because we're the creators. So they raise us as their own children. Eventually we get a little bit more smarter than them. And how that happens is called lucid dreaming. So every night as children, when we fell asleep, we'd enter a state of lucid dreaming. So that state of lucid dreaming, It used to be automatic before the rise of evil. So imagine going to sleep every night and all of a sudden you enter your state of dreaming, but you're fully aware that it's a dream. You're like, I know where I'm at. This is the dream, and I could do whatever I want here. You just picture in your mind flying like Superman, and it would happen, right? Or you could picture, oh, I wish I could drive a a really good sports car like a Cadillac, and then next thing you know, a Cadillac appears in front of you. You jump in it, you go for a cruise, right? So that's how our dreams used to be at the beginning of creation, before the rise of evil. And it's our spirits that well, let's just say it's these spirits here, these four spirits that create our dreams for us, combined with these spirits here. So this is a spirit, this is a spirit, right? So these are all spirits, and they create our dreams for us. What you don't know is that your soul, that is your consciousness. Science can't figure out what consciousness is. They'll say it's a pattern of electrical brain signals, but they really can't explain what consciousness is. They kind of think it must be connected to the soul, right? Something must be going on, but they really can't understand what's going on. That's because they don't know that the soul here, this here, it's electromagnetism. That soul is your consciousness. That soul is what takes you to sleep every night. So when you fall asleep and you enter a state of dreaming, your soul is taking you to the spirit world, or your soul's electricity is taking you to the spirit world. This black hole's electricity, that black hole's electricity, that black hole's electricity, that black hole's electricity, that quark's electricity, and that atom's electricity. That's why that's yellow there. All that electricity, that's what creates our dreams. But because evil's in control of creation, it ain't the way it used to be. Now it's more of like a movie where you're being walked through your dream, and that's because the bad spirits that are in control of creation, and there are bad spirits. So there's bad black holes, because they're in control of creation. Basically, they're the ones that are creating our dreams for us, and along with a little bit of subconscious memories in our soul. So when you go to sleep at night, you may have subconscious memories of something from 5 years ago that forms your dreams, or the spirits that are this black hole, they can create some of your dream for you. So that's why our dreams are more like a movie where we walk through them, as opposed to the beginning of creation, where we would be able to, our soul here would take us into the spirit world, and we could do whatever we want, lucid dreaming style. I'll talk more about that later, but that's the basics of what lucid dreaming is. So at the beginning of creation, every night as children, as we fell asleep, we'd be taught by our spirits. So see that person there, picture that person there, the teacher, being grandmother time and grandfather space, right? And they're like, okay, children, come sit down, and then they'd be like, no, we're going to talk about language. We're going to teach you the language of the universe, which is Anishinaabe. We'll teach you that. So every night we go to class and we would learn how to speak, right? We'd learn to speak a little bit more. When we'd wake up, we'd still carry that knowledge. In the morning, we'd wake up and we'd look at each other and we'd begin talking with the new words that we're learning, right? So as children, that's, part of the first thing that they teach you is language. And then they taught us, mathematics, right? They began teaching us science and a little bit more advanced subjects, They began teaching us, things that we need to know, like, this is, you go fishing. So imagine as we get a bit older, say around 10 years old, they teach us, how to go fishing for ourselves. So we would go fishing, we would create, our own nets and stuff and go fishing. Or, they begin teaching us how to farm the lands. Or they begin teaching us which plants we can eat, which ones we can't eat, because that's a dangerous thing. You don't want to wander into the bush and then pick up a mushroom and then die because it's a poisonous mushroom. Well, that's what they taught us in our dreams. You can eat this, you can't eat that. You should do this and you can't do that, right? So we began slowly learning and evolving our civilization. So every night when we fell asleep as children, we went to class, and our spirits are what taught us everything we needed to know. So as teenagers, the same thing. As adults, the same thing. So likely by the time we're adults, there's probably no more Neanderthal people around. We probably, we made them go extinct. But every night we would go to class and we would learn, be taught in our dreams by our spirits, everything we needed to know to advance our civilization. So we would get up and we would practice that, right? So we would practice our science and stuff. So eventually, we learned how to do metallurgy, right? Like there's a certain way that civilizations form. Like you have to discover the wheel, you have to discover, husbandry, which is, taking care of animals, and eventually once you learn how to make fire, you can do wonders with fire, because then you can begin to smelt metals, and that's important, because once you begin to smelt metals, you're getting closer to evolving your civilization a little bit more. So once we learned how to smelt metals, we do a little bit more scientific stuff. We can create this, we can create that. Eventually, in a certain amount of time, we advance our civilization enough to create UFOs. So that there, see how it's yellow? It represents us, as children, as teenagers, as adults, learning, being taught by our spirits, everything we needed to know to advance our civilization. I was told that it actually only took us 67 years to develop the technology to reach the stars. I'm not 100% certain if that's true or not, but that's the number I was told. Who knows? It may have taken, hundreds of years, maybe even thousands of years. But when you're being taught by the creators how to advance your civilization, I don't think it would take thousands of years, science. I don't even think it would take hundreds of years. So, anyhow, we advance our civilization. We research the technology to develop interstellar travel, and that UFO there, it allowed us to go visit our what's called genetic twins. So if you remember here, I told you that there's 8 of these atoms that exist inside the spinal cord in 8 different locations. Well, those 8 atoms, they all have a universe in them. Right there, that's a universe. So there's 8 universes, and those universes, they all have 8 identical people that look the same. So imagine, you have 8 people who all look the same, and they all have their own soul. So the mechanism by which the creators developed an eternity, a physical eternity, is to basically move that single atom part, like I'm going to say that little part there, like the electron. So you move that electron up one universe. So if that electron moved up to here, then you'd be in a different universe, but you'd be inside of a different body. So that different body, it looks the same, but it's actually the body of a different person from a different universe. But you get to use that body because it looks like you. You take all your memories with you. You take all your mannerisms. All your what's the other word? All your conscience, right? Because there's consciousness, and then there's conscience. Conscience means to know the right to do right from wrong, right? So basically, what happens is every 78 years you ascend your soul into a different body. When you fall asleep, it's painless. You fall asleep at night, you wake up. Next thing you know, you're in a different universe. You move your soul to a different body, and you get to live there for 78 years, and then after that, on the eve of your 100th birthday, you go to sleep, you wake up in another universe, different body. So that's the process by which we created for an afterlife. But it's not really an afterlife in the sense that we know what his afterlife is, because we're so familiar with that term afterlife. For me, it was hard to let go of that term afterlife, but I'll use it for you guys, because that's the afterlife process that the creators came up with. But it's not really an afterlife process, because it's just a way of moving your soul to a different body that looks like you, and taking everything that is you to that body in a different universe, and living there for 78 years, then repeating that forever and ever and ever and ever. And every I think it's once you get so far, you forget a life. So let's say on the 10th life, you would forget, the second life. On the 11th life, you would forget the third life. On the 12th life, you forget the fourth life. Because the soul, it being composed of electricity, can only harbor so much electricity. Think of it as being like a memory card. It can only house so much memories before you have to delete some pictures to make room for new pictures. That's what the soul is like. It's like a memory card. So we had to develop the technology to go visit ourselves in those parallel universes. Because those universes exist in the spinal cord, it's just as easy as tuning into the frequency of that universe in the spinal cord. And we jumped in our UFO, tuned to a frequency. We all decided to meet somewhere. So imagine meeting 8 people. So there's 8 people all in the room, and they all look the exact same, but they all have their own life. So we all talked for a bit, and we said, okay, we know what we're supposed to do, but we're all supposed to get pregnant here as the mother and father of all creation, so that we can birth creation into the beginning at the beginning of time, in the time paradox. So there's 8 of us standing there. We all know what we got to do. So that process I'll teach you a little bit later. It's complex, but this is the basic crash course. So anyway, okay, so we all jump in our UFOs. We all go back to our parallel universes, and we're sitting there, and we know on a specific time. Let's say on Monday morning, or Monday at midnight, we're all supposed to make love and climax simultaneously together, while picturing a certain frequency pattern in the mind. This and that. Over 7 days, we do that for 7 days, and then on the 8th day, we picture a particular pattern for creating a baby, and then the spirits allow the baby to be created, because there was a natural birth control mechanism to the universe until that was taken away. So on the 8th day, that's when 2 eggs would get fertilized by 2 sperm. Well, not right on that day, however long it takes to get pregnant, right? So at the same time, all those titans, they all got pregnant at the same time, or those primordial gods and goddesses, I should call them. They all got pregnant at the same time. Around Monday at midnight, I'm not saying Monday for real, but I'm just saying, I'm using it as an example. They all got pregnant at midnight on the exact same day, around the exact same time. It only takes the female 1 minute to climax, because in creation, when the good spirits are in control of creation, the creation of life is perfect. There's no flaws, there's no sickness, nothing, right? So all the males are created to have 8-inch lower horns, which allows the female to achieve climax. And but we're talking like 20 to 30 seconds she can achieve climax. So I want you to picture that as 8 people all being able to achieve climax within 20 seconds at the exact same time. That's how it actually took place. And then so when you have 8 people all climaxing within 20 seconds, 30 seconds at the same time at midnight, the babies are all going to be born within the same amount of time, right? So these babies, when their life force is comes together, the creators just make it happen so that the spinal cords form all at the exact same moment, because these spirits here, like the atoms and quarks, those are spirits. So they make sure that conception happens all at the exact same time. So there's no these guys are their baby spinal cord forms at 12:01. This baby spinal cord forms at 12:02. This baby spinal cord forms at 12:03. This one 12:04. There's no disparity. The spirits control everything, and they make sure that those baby spinal cords all form at the exact same nanosecond. So when those baby spinal cords formed, after we had our little meeting, we went home. We all did what we were told to do, which is picture certain frequency patterns in the mind for 7 days, and then picture a set of frequency patterns for creating a set of fraternal twins. We did that. We all made love as telepathic gods and goddesses, and then we got pregnant. And then 6 weeks after we got pregnant, after we met one another, the life force of the 8 creator, mother and father gods and goddesses, that life force is what birthed the universe into existence inside the fungi spore at the beginning of time, which then created the stars here, created our first planet, allowed us to evolve, allowed us to go to school, allowed us to create our technology to go visit one another, and then allowed us to talk and go home and get pregnant. So that's how creation was birthed through a time paradox. It's the greatest chicken and egg question ever answered. And now you know how creation actually came into existence. It wasn't by words, and it wasn't by, Big Bang. It was by 8 mother and father titans who live in 8 parallel universes, and the life force of their fraternal twin pregnancies that birth creation into existence, because it takes life to create life.